How you doing, YouTube? It's Will from Mill Development. This is my 427th weekly update. Last week you were introduced to the newest studio. I think this is Studio C at this point, since A was the bedroom, B was actually my living room in front of one of the windows out there, and then this will be C, which will more than likely be the permanent future of these videos, just because this is officially finally the office. Finally got everything moved in. Finally got a bunch of stuff moved around. Can't see it over here. There's a lovely shelf finally for me to put a bunch of bullshit that was sitting around in here. It's mostly like kitchen appliances that we don't want to leave in the kitchen. But all that stuff's over here, including a bin that has all the stuff I bring to, shows when I do expos and things like that, where there's all my everything for tacky remover. Whole bunch of stuff is over there. And then over here's a bunch of shit I still need to clean up yet, and still figure out a solution right here for a couple things. You can't see it, and that's okay. That's better. I don't want to paint you a picture with what it looks like in here, because it's like 3/4 way done through everything. So, regardless, did a comp over the weekend. What day? Yeah, it was just last weekend. It was World's Strongest Manatee. This is my second year competing in it, actually. This will be the second consecutive year as well. And year one got third. There were 3 guys in my division in the 181s, and then this year we only had 2 in the 181s, and so we were combined with the 220s because there was no 200 class. And what ended up happening actually is one of the 220 guys just didn't even show up. The one who did show up, I've actually known for a number of years, and so I was excited to compete with him. I knew he would still beat me on like at least 2 of the events. I thought I would do better on some of them than I did, but it was still cool. I ended up tying with the other 181 guy with 2 on the keg press. That was frustrating to an extent. I mean, I'm not known as a presser yet. And then my unfamiliarity and my inability to train for the show, just with all the stuff going on and my arm being in the condition that it's in, it is what it is. So, I really felt like I could have gotten 3, but, by the time I sort of figured out how to do the thing, I was already gassed. I think I cleaned it like 4 or 5 times and only got 2 presses out of the deal. And it should have been a lot easier than it was, but it's just... It is what it is. The bag toss is the one that actually really hurt the most. Unfortunately, it was a unique situation, and the part that's unfortunate is not that it was a unique situation. It's just what that caused me to have to do, or attempt to do. That's what made it unfortunate, but if I remember right, the bags were something like 30, 35, 40, and 50. And they had this... It was actually, I agreed with it. It was interesting. It was neat. It was a good way to put a change on it. Where basically, if you threw it with one hand, you would get 2 points, and if you threw it with 2 hands, you would get 1 point. So you were rewarded for, in theory, doing it the harder way. Unfortunately, the guy who was the other 181 was able to complete the first 2 bags one-armed, and it was unfortunate for me because I knew throwing one-armed would really put a lot of stress on my right arm that I really didn't want. And my first throw on the first bag, just nothing. That was easy. The second bag, when I threw it, it got stuck on the pole, and they had a rule where if it stayed on the pole, basically tie went to the athlete. And the thing bent way back, came back forward, and then bent back a little bit and came forward and rolled back over on me. Because, fuck me, why not, right? Simple solution is throw harder. Completely missed the bar on the second throw. I think the third one is when I finally got it over, but at that point my arm is just fucked. My whole body's just done. I've got no explosiveness left. Attempted the third bag, I think 3 total times. I should have just walked away after the second throw because I knew it wasn't going to happen. But it was like 5 seconds left, and I don't know. In the past, I've been angry at myself for giving up too early, and then this is actually a situation where I'm mad at myself for continuing on. I should have just stopped, I knew it wasn't going to make it. There was no chance it was going to make it. I had already convinced myself it wasn't going to make it, so I shouldn't have even bothered. I should have just walked away when I said. And instead, I attempted a third throw, and it just pissed me off. That's all it did. It still pisses me off. I should have just stopped. I would have been less angry. But then we did the farmer's hold with 225 a hand, and I held on for a minute 18, which is actually pretty cool because the original record for the 181 class was 115 when I broke it, or 117 actually. I still currently hold that at 220 a hand for a minute 25, but the old record was a minute 17, so I actually would have beaten the old record by 1 second with 5 more pounds per hand, which is pretty cool. And then this is where things got more unfortunate stuff happened, because I won that event. Then we were going to the tractor pull, which I'm really good at those events. I believe I'm one of the best, at least in the state, regardless of weight class, period. I truly believe I am one of the best at that. I've only lost it one time, and never again. I've never lost ever since, because I just refused to lose it, because it was, I'm really good at it, and it was embarrassing the one time I did lose it. So we're going into that event, and unfortunately the other 181 guy dropped out. Now this is unfortunate because with the way the points would have been, because it was just Brian and I for the last 2 events, it went from being a 3-point split to a 2-point split. So, that guy actually beat Brian on the hold. So he got second and Brian was in third. And then on that event, I'm very confident that I still would have, I was the lightest man to finish it, period. 55 seconds it took me to go 80 feet with it, but, I did finish it. 5 seconds to spare, barely, but, I was the lightest man to finish it. I was also the first man to finish it. And then Brian didn't even finish it, so I would have actually been curious, because, just looking at the grip aspect of it, there's a chance that the other 181 guy might have possibly either finished it or beaten Brian, and that would have been third again. And then that would have made things really interesting, because then I would have been in first going to that last event. And as long as I stayed above, got second place on it, I would have won the whole thing because of that. But unfortunately, the other 181 guy dropped out. And then going to the last event, we had one point between us. And my right arm was just killing me. And I remember just gentleman's agreement. I'm like, look, I'll go. I'll give it a go. If it's not going to happen, I'm not going to force it. It's not worth it. I've got to show that I not necessarily care more about, but I'm more concerned about my performance at the next show than this one necessarily. So, I'm going to just save it. So, I said, you don't have to do a lot if you don't want to. I'm not going to make it hard for you. I did it, pick it, carry it, and when I went for the second pick to shoulder it, it was only 200 pounds, but it was just like that second pick, right when I grabbed it, it was like, nah, I can already feel the biceps not going to like that, it's not worth it, I've been pushing it, and, been lucky thus far that nothing bad has happened yet, so it was like, yeah, whatever. So, did end up in second place. I'm still confident in my ability that I would have come second place no matter what anyway. Just thinking about it, because even if the other guy was there, let's say he beat Brian on that pull, I would have been the points leader at that point, or Brian and I would have been tied going into the last event, and there's no way that guy was going to beat Brian at the stone to shoulder. He did 5 of them. And he had plenty more in the tank. It was nothing to him. He's a 220 athlete, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things. It should have been easy for me too. Lack of training, lack of confidence in the arm, a lot of things played factors. But this week's training has been basically a joke because of that. I've done very, very light stuff, if I've done anything. Trying to figure out positions where my arm doesn't necessarily hurt, and then trying to find positions where it does hurt and just apply a little bit of stress to those positions, to try to just get more blood flow into it, to try to, sort of force it to heal. I think the best thing I can do is give it rest, which unfortunately, due to the nature of my job, I'm constantly going around stones like this, so it's it's not getting a chance to really rest and heal up, unfortunately, and in the foreseeable future it still probably won't. So it is what it is. Just going to keep trying to do what I can to rehab it gently while also still getting some decent enough training. Luckily I can still do things like deadlift and squat with no pain in the arm, so I'm gonna just kind of focus on those for the next couple weeks while I can. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to touch stones at all. I just don't want to risk it until day of. It is what it is. I have no choice. It's just, we'll just see how it goes. I can still press pretty well too. Got a pretty decent shot on that dumbbell this time. I know I've said that before, but I feel pretty good about it this time. But we'll see what happens. And we'll just go from there. And so win where you can, and then learn where you can. And I think that's the lesson for the week. This week, if you can win, fucking win. And then if you can't, at least learn something. If you don't, then what's your excuse?